Plants vs. Zombies, while you may not believe it considering my previous endeavor, is a franchise very close to my heart. In fact, it's my all-time favorite. Glad there isn't anything wrong with the current state of the franchise, right guys? Yes, I am still beating a dead horse, and holy hell is it still entertaining. But out of the entire franchise, my favorite of them all are the two shooter games, Garden Warfare 1 and 2. I always felt like a third shooter game should have been made. It's interesting they never tried. Garden Warfare 2 especially is probably my favorite game of all time. So much so that there is a very long video that I have planned that will rank every individual character in Garden Warfare 2. I feel like that would be a good laugh. It would probably be several hours long, but I will most likely save it for a big special once I hit a certain subscriber goal. Maybe 1,000, but we'll play it by ear. But I want to spoil the list a bit for you by saying that this fella right here will have a very consistent track record on this list. The Imp and Z-Mech is quite possibly the coolest character in the game. Not quite my favorite, but I think he is the most cleverly designed. Even if that doesn't fully translate to the most fun for me personally, I would understand if someone called him the best. The Imp class rewards the player, gives them something truly fun to look forward to, and is overall the easiest class in the entire game to like. So let's talk about the Imp. Even just standalone, the Imp is already giving us a pretty solid start. Imp is a complete glass cannon. This bitch does a ton of damage, spins around like he hasn't gotten his weekly rabies shot, and can also double jump while also being the smallest playable hitbox in the game. Yeah, that was a good idea. Alongside the schizophrenia simulator I just referenced towards, we also have the gravity grenade. I see very split opinions when it comes to Imp's gravity grenade. Some people despise this thing with the passion of a supernova, and others... Okay, re-record. I see very one-sided opinions on Gravity Nade. Even people who like the Imp class kinda hate this thing and call it the caveman move. Well, guess what? Maybe I am a caveman! This move slaps! You know, I actually genuinely like a few things about this move, and it's honestly more because of Imp's other abilities than this one itself. To TLDR before I even tell you the point, when you use this ability, you're basically a sitting duck for a while. The Z-Mech recharges at the pace of old people shag, and Schizosim isn't always the best option. It's a great damage dealer, but doesn't work well against mobile characters like P-Shooter and Citron, whom also happen to be the Imp's #1 counters. So if only there was a move to totally immobilize them. Hey! The combo that every single Imp known to man does and is even shown in the reveal trailer. So yeah, you can do that combo, it works great and does effective damage, but after that you're a doubly sitting duck unless you're other ability is charged, which it most likely won't be. You are left with a double jump and your primary. And in a game as chaotic as Garden Warfare 2, a double jump and primary only gets you so far. And by so far, I mean like 12 feet before getting flung around like a tech demo for ragdoll physics. This is genuinely what I love about Imp's base form. Because his main ability recharges so slow, it leaves the player with almost this resource management feeling. Oftentimes while playing Imp, I find myself trying to time my ability cooldown so I'm not powerless for too long. Oftentimes with other attack-based characters, you have a bailout in case things go south. Superbrains jumps to the height of Jax Film's forehead and has 200 health. Citron is the Incredibles Omnidroid and has 200 health. Foot Soldier has two abilities that you often don't need in a typical gunfight and thus can save them for a retreat. It has 200. Chomper's abilities recharge so quick that by the time you're done cycling, your first ability is recharged. The Imp, however, does not have that. The standalone Imp has two abilities, take it or leave it, and that feeling of going on a kick-ass kill streak is unmatched in this game when you're playing the Imp. And that's not even including the objectively coolest part of this character. You know what it is, it's the goddamn Z-Mech. You know, the Imp actually would have been a pretty decent class already if he just had a regular ability alongside his main two. But, no, they really just added one of the most fun mechanics to ever be in a shooter game. Now, this isn't something insane. There are mechs in other shooter games, most notably Diva from Overwatch. But what I like Fucking hell. But what I like the most about Imp in this game is that he is a reward. For example, Diva kinda sucks ass. You start off with your giant mech, you have your fun, but once you die, you still go back to your human form and can go back into it fairly easily. When you're in a Z-Mech as an Imp, there are very tangible threats to be aware of. When you die in your mech, not only are you actually fucking dead instead of the game giving you a bullshit second chance, but you also miss out on utilizing the explosive escape move. Basically, your Z-Mech sacrificing itself for the greater good. Half the time it hits like a wet fart damage-wise, but other times it can lead to some of the most fun team plays in the entire game. Because from a plant's perspective, seeing this little chud bingus fly out of the ejector seat while self-destruct alarms are flaring everywhere is a rush. It makes the Imp go from a little scrappy shithead damage dealer to the genuine soul of a big fight. And not only that, but I think the Z-Mech just fits so perfectly with the gameplay style the Garden Warfare games have. Not just chaotic fun with big explosions, but also immense variety, especially with the characters. For those who are less aware, the most standout aspect of the Garden Warfare games are the character variants. They're essentially subclasses for the main character that switch up their primary attack and occasionally some other type of gimmick. Sometimes it's something as simple as a fire rate increase, like with Captain Sharkbite. Other times it completely changes the way you play the character, like with the Chomper variants that have a spray attack rather than a bite. Imp is by far the most affected character when it comes to these variants, because every single variant has its own mech. They all play differently and also fully match the playstyle of their respective imps. The aggressive, the tactical, the explosive, leading to by far the most dynamic class to play over long stretches of time. Garden Warfare 2's variants add so much variety to the playstyle, but at the end of the day still prioritize the character maintaining their core playstyle. Run and gun, mobile brawler, assassin, but Imp's overall playstyle is a bit more general. Alright, gather round. Imp Mech Lightning Round ranking. Last place goes to the Shrimp Mech just because one of its abilities does literally nothing. 5th place goes to the Dragon Mech. It's a lot of fun and very clearly tried to make a counter to P-Gatlings and Sunbeams. It didn't work. 4th place goes to Pylon Mech. The mines are really funny and the bling version is pretty cool. 3rd place goes to Base Mech. This also applies to Party Mech. A lot of mechs have a dash ability for mobility purposes. Instead, they gave these fellers missiles for long range combat in a big piss off stomp. Very fun. Also, his primary feels really good. 2nd place goes to Z7 Mech. You'd think a mech's abilities only having one singular use would be boring. You'd be totally wrong. Because of how wonky the grab feature is, getting an actually successful grab into Falcon Backhand is actually really difficult. And number 1 goes to the Scallywag Mech. They took Captain Deadbeard and gave him explosions, 400 health, and roided up versions of a Chili Beam Bomb and Imp Kata. I don't need to explain myself here. Straight peak. The variants themselves will obviously be safe for the full character ranking, but as it stands now, the Imp class probably has the most consistent set of variants in the game. A lot of other classes don't have any bad variants either, like Colonel Corn or Scientist, but a lot of those characters' variants are very similar to the base forms, just with a visual change and some simple stat mix-ups. Every single Imp plays extremely different, and they're all at the very least a pretty good time. I think that's something genuinely impressive. And gotta say, after grinding for max rank for a couple of years now, going back and playing some good old-fashioned Imp was a great time. The Imp class is extremely unique and one of the most understandable classes to be someone's favorite. His abilities are fun for beginners but have tons of nuance. His low health combined with a ticking time bomb towards becoming a god makes for really intense gunfights, and he has the most variation between subclass variants. I love playing this little shit with all my heart. He is a perfect fit for this game. Which is why it's so great when they just plop him into a completely different game with hardly any changes!